You know, I decided I'd dress up in some new things. They're comfy, they've got our support. There you go. Yes, now
No. No, I don't need to get up.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Wednesday, October 4th, 6 p.m. Board of Supervisors meeting, special meeting. We've got a very short agenda tonight, and I apologize, as I reviewed the agenda, I failed to include the invocation and the pledge, which we will be doing. So if you can, please stand if you're able. Let's pray. Well, Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for this community that you've brought us all to. You all have us here for a reason, God, and we thank you that some of us are able to step out in front and lead. God, I just pray for humility. I pray for wisdom as we make the decisions that impact the citizens of this county who are your children. It's in your Son's name I pray. Amen. Thank you. I really don't have any other comments other than that pledge, when you're standing up here and you hear it behind you and we're all pledging to this country, I think is amazing. So those are my comments. All right, let's move right into what are we here for? All right, staff will be presenting.
Good evening, Chairman Spoonhauer, members of the board, Mr. Carpenter, Crystal Knightis, Deputy County Administrator. Before you all tonight, you have a brief presentation that will be provided by our consultant Timmons Group that helped analyze and provide some statistics to all of the proposed amendments that were received from August 11th through September 15th. So without any further delay on that, I will turn it over to Chuck Rapp with Timmons to provide that overview for you all.
Thank you, Mr. Knightis. Welcome, Mr. Rapp.
Thank you, Crystal. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As stated, for anyone that doesn't know me yet, I'm Chuck Rapp with the Timmons Group, Senior Project Manager. I've had the honor of leading the effort to try and improve the Centerville plan over the past 9 months or so. So here tonight, what we would like to do, see if I can get this to go. Stall.
Because it's a PDF. We learned this last night.
Okay. What do I do?
Do you have it as a PowerPoint?
I do not. You want me to click here? Why not do
Yeah,
that?
but let's get full screen.
Okay. There.
Oh, no,
I
wait.
think we were there.
We were there.
Yep, I just scroll down. That's fine.
There we go.
Cool.
And then just use the
Arrows.
keyboard arrows.
Thank you. All right, so this evening we wanted to just provide a brief recap to the project history, all the different engagement efforts and process so far, the approach, as well really focused on the community feedback over the past several weeks of proposed amendments and the report that we prepared to try and consolidate that and create it into something that would hopefully be useful moving forward. And then happy to answer any questions afterwards. So starting with the history of this project, as a timeline you all have seen before, we've updated this to reflect the most recent stuff. It goes all the way back to February of 2012 with the prior consultant Hill Studio, showing where they had a kickoff with roundtables, community surveys, community meetings, presentations. Went on for almost a year or so, and then we came in earlier this year, around February, performed a diagnostic, went into additional work sessions with the Planning Commission, joint work sessions with y'all, public hearings. We did get the Courthouse Village Plan adopted, but obviously, especially based on all the feedback that's been submitted, the attendance at all of these meetings, that there's a lot of concern over the elements of this plan, and so that's what we're really here to talk about tonight. Also talking about that process, this just outlines all the different elements we've done, trying to kind of embrace this cyclical process of reviewing documents, reviewing data, reviewing input, trying to synthesize that, prepare it into documents that then be presented, and then taking more feedback and trying to kind of revise and continue that until we hopefully reach a consensus. But as you can see, read through all those comments, there still is, we are a long way from consensus this evening. So down at the bottom there, you see where we are, August, September. Following the public hearing earlier in August, it was determined that a public input period to submit proposed amendments would be beneficial. So after several weeks of that, we spent a couple weeks reviewing all of that, trying to compile that into what we have in that report before you this evening. So getting on to the community feedback. As we mentioned, we tried to really try to take all that out of the different submissions and total it up and try and categorize it into a couple of categories and provide some analytics to it that hopefully will be useful moving forward for the county. So there were a total of 225 submissions, and with each submission, you were allowed to submit 3 proposed amendments. So there's a total of 632 proposed amendment submissions. But as we went into that, we noticed that a few of them had multiple amendments within each submission, so that actually got us to a total of 679 total amendments for consideration. And we tried to break those into categories that related to the plan so that you could see some metrics and hopefully see how they stacked up against each other, see some commonalities or some differences amongst that as a way to hopefully find them useful moving forward. So land use was certainly the largest category. When we talk about land use, we're talking about future land use designations or some of the built form elements that we had in the plan. So we had 464 out of 679. So there were a lot of concerns expressed about land use, and they have a broad range. Here we have a bullet point here on this slide that pulls out some of the common ones that were repeated most of the time throughout the submissions. And they range from everything from retaining the existing comp plan, just as it is in the 2035 adopted comp plan for the county, to removing specific land uses such as lodging from the core, removing references to auto-oriented businesses, lowering intensities, smaller scale development, maybe going down to 1 story instead of the 2 to 3 stories that we were showing in some of those. And even removing townhomes altogether from neighborhood residential. And then there were some that even just basically said remove everything about land use, about building form, about density, about height, kind of all of those recommendations, as well as any zoning amendment recommendations. So as you can see from this list, there's a pretty wide variety. It would be a lot of work, I believe, to try and reach a consensus as to what to do with the plan to get it to a point where everybody feels comfortable with it. Transportation was another high score, almost 100 submissions on that. It really conveys that there's a lot of work to do on the transportation plan for this portion of the county as well. So amendments for removal of proposed roads. And if you remember with the transportation plan, we just really brought forward the county's adopted transportation plan in here. So these are folks once really taking another view of that, had some concerns with what was shown. So we have removal of proposed roads, removal of greenways. You remember we had some greenway trails along some of the tributary streams and things like that, so we're wanting to remove or adjust those. And then we also had a recommendation for adding 17 new transportation projects that aren't already in your adopted plan, so additional work to be done for transportation to help improve that network here in the county. Community character was another high score, a little over 50 submissions there. A number of them focused on trying to find ways to retain the rural character here in Centerville. And it really didn't feel that we had captured that within the draft plan and wanted us to focus more on that, as well as really spending more time addressing community character and design. So certainly felt the consensus with a lot of those comments was just that we needed to really flush that out more and really identify what those character elements were and how that could be incorporated into some of those design guidelines and provide that guidance moving forward. Graphics, there are also some comments about graphics, just again this idea of trying to use smaller scale imagery that really fit the scale of Centerville as desired by the citizens that live and work in that community. References to 1-story buildings and something much smaller, particularly in a lot of the areas, the core. There's also some concerns about how the Bellevue Gardens neighborhood was shown, suggesting that we had left a few properties out. I believe there's a medical office facility in the front of that, and they were expressing that that should be part of what was shown on the map as their, as Bellevue Gardens, in terms of what was actually part of that community. And then we had a number of proposed amendments that didn't really fit into one of those categories, but we wanted to certainly carry those forward, document those, so that they were part of the record. And a lot of those focused on additional infrastructure, as you can see, from schools to other fire and rescue facilities, to how the county approaches economic development, pedestrian facilities on roads and things like that. So we've also incorporated that. So all of those, our report has very high level of these summaries and some of these analytics that we brought out of there. We really just tried, the idea was just to really carry that forward so that they could be under consideration. We also have a technical appendix attached to that report that includes every proposed amendment as it was, as well as the justification and who submitted it. So hopefully we've captured everything in there that will help the county move forward and make that decision. So it's really all I had prepared tonight. Just wanted to bring that, and hopefully it's useful, and it's a way that we can have some dialogue, or the county can continue and figure out the right path forward. So with that, I will pause for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rapp. Any questions this time? Okay, thank you. Does staff have anything else, or are we, okay? Board, any questions or comments at this time before we open the public hearing? Mr. Vars?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Rapp. I appreciate it. A couple things that I'll just note. Immense amounts of work went into this project. It is not to be dismissed. I think I entered this midstream. I think we're a community that hates waste, so I looked at the project and said, let's find a way forward. Let's see what we can do. We got great feedback in this amendment process, and I think we have reached a conclusion based on that. But it was all done with the appropriate intentions to have a plan, to have a vision for what our county, especially the East End, can be moving forward. So we're going to take a lot of learnings from this. We're going to incorporate those in any future projects. We're going to make sure that this is a working document that Timmons has provided us, and we're grateful to have it. I will say that what came out of this project is we have to appreciate and support our staff here in this county. There was a lot of nastiness. That cannot continue. I will defend our county staff and support services nonstop. And people have to realize we're trying to do the best we can for this county and represent to the best of our abilities. Accusing people of being liars, accusing them of, malfeasance is not the right way to go. So I've said that before, and I'll stress it again. Finally, I stated in a public release that I put out that I'll be voting no against this proposal. So it's on the record. We're going to go and take what we've learned and make the best out of it. And I hope everyone appreciates that path forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vars. Anyone else like to make a comment this time? Ms. Lass, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, I really like the idea of doing a plan in Centerville. We did the plan in Courthouse Village, vastly different area, and that was approved, and I believe that's gonna go forward very well. So I liked having a plan because we know growth is coming. And we don't want uncontrolled growth. We are Goochland County. We don't want to be like anyone else, and I heard that over and over from the citizens as well. We don't want to be Short Pump. We don't want to be Enright. We don't want to be anybody but Goochland County. So I thought having a plan would really be beneficial, not only to the citizens, developers, staff, people making decisions. Everybody kind of knows where we're going here on a plan. Unfortunately, in my opinion, we're in a situation where we really can't seem to agree on what this plan is going to look like. And there's just too many barriers at this point, in my opinion, to make this thing work at this time. I think Mr. Vars is correct. We did learn a lot from this. And I know the citizens put in an enormous amount of work as well. The staff did. I can't tell you how many phone calls and emails that we got on this. But we are listening to the citizens. And, unless someone here tonight can explain to me or convince me, change my mind that we need to have this plan, then I'm gonna have a hard time voting for it. So that's my comments.
Thank you, Ms. Lascalette. Any other comments before I open the public hearing? Just no? All right, then at that, I will open the public hearing. Can we get the slide up, Ms. Biskiewicz? Yeah, so we're going to open the public hearing. You have 3 minutes to speak. If you are if you want to, if there's a group that is having someone speak for them, they can give up to 2 minutes of their time for a total of 10 minutes. If people do want to get up, we would ask that you come and make your way to sit on the front row so that we can save time by folks, walking over people, and we will, please ask that you give us your name and your address. And I will be honest, if we start to hear the same comments over and over again, we'll probably be closing the public hearing. So it's fine to say what they've said is, I've heard it and I'm not supportive of it, that's fine. We don't need to hear things 5 and 10 times to understand what the desires of the people are. So with that, I will open the public hearing.
Did you guys need us to state our name and address? Is that the way it went? Thomas Pearson, 12645 Pamela Lane, from the Bellevue Gardens neighborhood. I'm going to cede my time to Ellen Kowalski.
Thank you. I'm Joanna Meadows. I live at 12661 Pamela Lane, and I'd like to cede my time to Ellen Kowalski.
Thank you. And I'm Ellen Kowalski, also at 12661 Pamela Lane. That's in Bellevue Gardens. That's my mom. Thank you for having this open comment period tonight. First of all, I would very much like to recognize the efforts of the county in August and September particularly to give us, the citizens, more time to contribute our input. Even though there were a handful of sessions over the months, actually more than a year before that, I did hear comments from my fellow community members that they did not feel that there was enough opportunity for their concerns to be gathered in the first place, and that also those concerns were not necessarily addressed. So it is important, of course, for us to be able to speak our minds, but it's equally important for you, our representatives, to listen to what we have to say. And if you are not able to get behind what we're asking for, tell us why and tell us what the compromise is that you propose. We trust you to work for us. I'm not an expert on any of this. I cannot make it to every meeting, but this is so important and vital to all of us that we are here tonight to make sure that we do have the chance to express everything. One thing I would urge you to do, since you have not voted yet, I would like to urge each and every one of you, as my representative, Mr. Vaughters, has already stated, that you will vote no on this proposal, on this plan as it stands right now. I would like to definitely see the lessons learned from this experience be brought forward so that you know all the stakeholders need to be heard early. The earlier we get these comments processed, the less likely we will find ourselves in this position in the future where we cannot come to an easy agreement. In fact, I would like to quote what it says on the website, that the Centerville Small Area Plan encountered difficulty garnering support from the beginning, given the widely divergent, I'm reading this so that it will be in the record because it's not in that presentation, given the widely divergent suggestions received in the most recent amendment proposal period, together with the public comments from earlier public hearings and meetings, it has become apparent to staff that there is no clear path forward. That's apparent to all of us that are here in opposition to this plan. So I'm very glad to see that that was actually stated. It's clear we're at loggerheads here. One thing I would like to bring to your attention, because I don't know that it was in any of our written comments, is that the city of Ashland has done a marvelous job at protecting their character, their community look and feel, and it's not by accident. They have a very comprehensive plan, and I think it would behoove us to study it, see what we can learn from it. We're not Ashland, we don't want to be Ashland any more than we want to be Short Pump or any other community, but they have really forged a path that I think would help us as a county, and certainly Centerville as a community, to see what we can learn from them, and I would like to be involved in those meetings as well. So thank you so much for your time, and I urge you to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kowalski.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Paul Kyber, I live at 12325 Beach Hall Circle, and I'm ceding my 2 minutes to Steve Sharrock.
Hello, I'm Steve Sharrock, 12201 Bremner Ridge Circle. I'm going to address concerns about traffic and the need to do population arithmetic, and some comments about a village. Ms. Laskowitz, you're absolutely correct. We do need a plan. Development is coming, and without that, we are going to have chaos. To understand traffic, you need population estimates. We need to have a clue about the full build-out of the residential population and the business traffic. Do the arithmetic. I spoke about this huge gap in planning at the March Town Hall meeting. For the November 2022 plan, I did an estimate. 16,000 more people added to the 2,049 already in the village. Of course, the core in the area has expanded since then somewhat. I've heard other estimates at 20,000. These numbers may not be accurate. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if they're not accurate, but they are far more useful than total silence on the subject. We know, okay. Traffic numbers for the prime economic areas will be especially wide range given the unknowns for occupancy. I authored 15 of the transportation amendments to the plan. I'm not going to read them now. They are in the record. That could be an applause line, I don't know. But especially troubling is the Ashland Road corridor, the intersections of Plaza Drive, Rockville Road, and Three Chop Road. The plan calls for a 4-way intersection at Plaza Drive in Ashland. We can't have that major intersection be one lane in each direction. We have to reserve the space for the extra turn lanes. Rockville Road will have new traffic from Tuckahoe Bridge, and we've just heard about a new development up Rockville Road that's proposed. Few details, but it looks like 300 houses, plus any development on the east side of the road, which is the prime economic development area. The plan has nothing penciled in that will handle even a fraction of this traffic. We need to understand what is coming. If you don't know the traffic needs at a full build-out, then you can't plan. Critical to know now, we need to identify the future rights-of-way, reserve and preserve those rights-of-way before a patchwork of development places buildings right up to the edge of our tiny, narrow country lanes. Our neighbors have been consistent for years. They want a village. I've spoken to hundreds of people while knocking doors. The Centerville plan is by far the #1 issue, the only issue to many. The people behind me probably agree with that. We all noticed the word village was dropped from the plan's title. I saw a statement about the concerns about the plan becoming apparent after the September 15 amendments. Are those lights blinking? I should have 6 minutes. Okay. No, the concerns were clearly announced at the Planning Commission meeting in May, loudly voiced. In March, it was announced that the November plan missed the mark. That was because of citizen outcry. There was citizen outcry before the January 11th working meeting of the board and the Planning Commission. So many concerns that when I sat in the room, I heard the phrase, "I'm so tired of people saying." Before that, concerns were raised in numerous public meetings. Our neighbors, the people who live here, were up to speed on the plan when it was released in November 2022. They did not face a steep learning curve on something they had no previous interest in. Again, our neighbors have been consistent for years. Please vote no for this plan and start working on a transportation plan before we've lost the ability to growth. On a different note, I'd like to thank the board for your service. 3 of you will be retiring. You will be missed. Last night, I watched the hearing on car dealership. There was question after question from the board, thoughtful questions, concerns about every hypothetical possibility. There was a suggestion that you should not consider hypothetical questions. No, you were doing exactly what you should do, exactly what you were doing.
Mr. Sharlock, I hate to interrupt you while you're complimenting us, but you are over time, so if you can wrap it up.
Well, again, let me just say, the 6 years is over in a blink of an eye. And again, thank you. You will be missed.
Thank you. Anyone else? If you could please come to the front if you're going to speak, that would be very helpful.
I wasn't thinking of speaking.
Okay.
I didn't come up and sit, so that's why.
You can continue the compliment train if you'd like. I think you just turned your mic off, ma'am, down the bottom. There you go, thank you.
Well, I don't think you need it anyway. I'm pretty loud.
The people at home do.
My name is Angie Pell, and I live on, just off Echo Meadow on a little private road, Hampton Row. And you have to go into Hanover to get back down into me in Goochland. Anyway, the reason I came to speak, decided to stand up, is I want to ask you all, why do you feel it's so necessary to make plans for so many more people to move into this county if you claim that it's supposed to be rural? Why don't you just make some rules to keep a lot more people out? Why don't you make some provision for affordable housing? Affordable housing for so many people here in this county that need housing. And I know they need it because I've been on the board of Habitat for 20 years. And I know how much it is needed. And I'm just wondering, why can't we just make some rules and regulations and just say you can't have houses there? You can only have one on every 5 acres. Do something like you have in the other half of the county when you sell a big place, and you can divide it up in a few small pieces, and after that, forget it. You can't divide it up anymore. I know how that's done because it keeps us from Habitat from buying small places. Instead, we have to raise money to buy the land. The land's almost more expensive than the affordable housing. Why don't you just make a village? A village, you took the name away, village, because it isn't a village anymore. It's going to be a short pump. And every time you do one of these developments, my place fills up with copperheads. So I am asking you, please, don't let any more people come and dig up the country. I'm tired of the copperheads. Thank you very much.
Anyone else want? Anybody else?
Yeah.
Okay.
None of us wanted to follow that.
I will say that if we do have any more outbursts, I will be closing the public hearing. We do want to respect everyone that's speaking, so we may have people in favor of the plan, maybe. So just please, let's be Goochland.
I'm not one of those. Greg Calizzi, 2028 Sycamore Creek Drive. It's kind of interesting sitting back here listening to this, and have been through a number of these meetings. I think I was even surprised at the number of submissions this late in the process. It seemed like a lot of that stuff would have been gathered early on. That said, Mr. Rapp used an interesting word, which was consensus. we're not going to get consensus. As much as we would like to, we recognize there's people in the Centerville area that have land that they want to use for development. There's also people in that same space that move, or that have been residents here because it is rural and there is more open space. So you do have a difficult task finding that right balance. Our hope is that at the end of spending $500,000 or whatever went into developing this plan is that we do learn. There were some good things in there that addressed some of our needs, some of our protections. I think that's probably the biggest concern we have is around the protections. Second thing would be that the county staff learns from this experience. I think the intake process for the amendments was a nice addition to the overall process, and I hope they move that up earlier so that you're not bombarded with 600 responses toward the end of this process. And the third piece, I ask of all of you that have political signs in Centerville, please clean those up as soon as the election's done, because it litters that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gillespie.
Good evening. My name is Larry Barker. I live at 2170 Mannequin Road, Mannequin Sabbath. And I want to talk a little bit about the fire rescue in the east end of the county. And I know you all have heard a lot of this before, but I'd like to focus on a sentence from the 2035 comp plan that says to ensure that new development does not exceed the county's ability to provide needed services and infrastructure. There are only 2 fire rescue stations in the east end with 2-man crew, occasionally a 3-man paid crew, and sometimes a volunteer. This is a minimum crew to safely operate rescue apparatus. Each station can only run 1 call at a time. Chief Ed Ferguson has already given the board all the statistics at the April board meeting and the problems with trying to hire qualified personnel. But in light of the proposed small area plan, some important numbers bear repeating. Company 1's call volume has increased 68%, and Company 3's call volume has increased 55% over the past 5 years from all this new development has already taken place. During 2022, another station had to either cover or assist Company 1 and Company 3 over 640 times, which means a company from the west end has to come in and handle a call from the east end because of the number of calls that the east end stations are getting. Avery Point and Shelter and Arms are projected to generate at least 750 calls each year. So that's just 2 entities in the east end that's going to take up a lot of that time. We barely can keep up with demand now with the help of the west end stations. If the proposed mixed-use and high-density housing projected in the new plan comes to fruition on both sides of Broad Street along Rockville Road and replacing the golf course, fire and rescue as is would be unable to keep up with projected demand. Even with a new station in West Creek, the numbers will keep outrunning available services. How many new calls will be generated from Rockville Road by increasing density on one of the most dangerous stretches of road in the county? Lastly, think about the amendments that the residents have proposed, especially limiting the size of the core, limiting density on Rockville Road, and putting hotels and townhouses where they ought to be near the interstates. The amendments should help fire rescue grow with managed growth. If the amendments are not being seriously considered, then please vote no. I'm happy to drive the 4 miles to Short Pump. I don't want Short Pump in my backyard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barker.
Doug Knapp, 2337 Wheatlands Drive, Mannequin Sabbath, and I'd like to give my time to Mr. Williamson.
I'm Michelle Williamson, 2262 Wheatlands Drive, Mannequin Sabbath, and I'm giving my time to him too.
Thank you. I'm Rob Williamson. I live at 2262 Wheatlands Drive. I'm here to present the Rockville Road Amendment and its justifications. But first, I'd like to say that I was impressed with the presentation of the feedback, and I thought people that are submitting feedback can have some lessons learned as well. I do appreciate that. I do want to point, if you bear with me, some of the statements I'm going to make will be some details that the justification during the amendment process was limited to 500 characters. So if you had a detailed justification, it would be chopped off. So bear with me. All right. My understanding is that there's inclination that there's going to be a no vote tonight. But I also have some feedback that there are misconceptions on what the zoning issues are. So if there's going to be a no vote, let it be done with clear understanding of what the issues on zoning and land use are. And simply, the concern is the plan is a high-density urbanization plan by urban planners to benefit developers at the expense of rural residents. First, no ordinance changes are required. There are some misconceptions that people thought it would be superseded and take over in place of the ordinances, but that's not true. So, but what it does do is on approval, it instantly doubles the size of the mixed core. Now, the impact of that is you have 320 acres, and if you use the current MPUD times 6 units per acre, that's 1,900. And if you double that, that's 3,800. Well, it'll take a lot to get to 3,800, but it opens the door. Also, if the plan is approved, it drives creating new ordinances and revising existing ordinances. And I'm not just saying that, it's in the plan. There's text in here that says the most direct way to implement design controls in Centerville is through zoning to achieve the desired patterns. Well, those patterns are in the plan. So there will be updates to zoning as a second phase. Otherwise, you can't execute the whole plan. And that would open a whole nother can of worms. So now to the Rockville Road land use. Basically, the amendment was to retain the single-family designation for 10 properties on Rockville Road from St. Matthews Lane to the I-64 bridge. Now, if approved, that's approximately 225 acres that are designated neighborhood residential with a density of 2 to 4. That opens another door. Do you think the new neighborhood residential ordinance that I just mentioned that would be coming is going to be more or less than the existing RPUD at 2.5 homes per gross acre? And we all know it'd be more. So 225 gross acres times 4 is a potential of 900 housing units total. Again, take a lot to get there, but it opens the door. And there's more. The current arterial management plan and the 2040 major thoroughfare plans both assume population growth and traffic congestion for the areas based on the 2035 comp plan, single-family residential medium density for the affected areas along Rockville Road. It also assumes in the table that it's 286 total homes, a far cry from the potential 900. That's also in the table 15. Now, using the single-family designation and the 2035 mixed-use core size, the thoroughfare plan assumes 163% population growth in the east end alone by 2040. Now, using these projections, county road improvements are given priorities. Rockville Road has been given a low priority as a long-term improvement. Now, doubling the core size and adding the Rockville Road high-density designation, what will the projected growth be then? 263%? 363%? The answer is we don't know. Because as someone mentioned, we don't know exactly what the numbers are. So if the plan is approved, it means that population traffic analysis for the arterial and the major thoroughfare plans are vastly underestimated. This should be a major concern to the other 4 districts because if approved as is, when development occurs in Centerville, county road improvement priorities will have to shift east along with all the other services, leaving them holding the bag. So for these reasons, I encourage you to vote no. And like I said, your work in this effort is greatly appreciated, and I do thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williamson.
Hi, my name is Paul Costello, and I live at 2011 Sycamore Creek Drive, Mannequin. I understand the fatigue factor that we've all been through, so my comments tonight will be brief. I first want to thank the community and all the citizens who have worked so hard to share our vision about how and where we grow. We are very fortunate to have so many caring, talented citizens willing to voluntarily share their diverse expertise to help strengthen our community and foster community pride. We greatly appreciate the Board of Supervisors for not acquiescing to a proposed plan that does not reflect our vision and shared values just to get it done. On behalf of the community, we thank you for all the care and time that you have put forth on this important planning initiative. I also want to recognize the County Administrator. We welcomed you into a new role, and we're very appreciative of your accessibility and willingness to quickly engage in this project. Mr. Carpenter, thank you and your hardworking and dedicated team for all you do. Your combined efforts are greatly appreciated. I also want to thank the Timmons team. You led a very professional and informative analysis. We plan to take what you provided and put it to good use. In short, we plan to use all the information gathered and the lessons learned to seek opportunities for improvement, most of which relate to greater transparency, follow-up expectations, and communications. Over the years, significant citizen and third-party consultant input has been provided to Goochland's elected officials and county administrations. We have established a clear understanding of the key attributes and design objectives for a successful village area that align with our vision for Centerville. In fact, we have shared a chronology that highlights decades of work. We've also established a public record of clear and consistent community input that has been used to concisely communicate our visions, concerns, and recommendations throughout this planning process. These efforts are all designated and designed to encourage civic engagement and discourse. From these activities, we validated that other counties' visions for growth are different from ours, and that the high-intensity urban scale development we see in Short Pump are just not right for Centerville. We envision a village that protects its rural character, where citizens of diverse backgrounds and beliefs respect each other's dignity, privacy, and freedoms. We also envision a village that offers residential communities, concentrated retail commerce, and continuous open space for recreation and community activities without the additional expense of large-scale and high-intensity uses that should be limited to B3 interchange areas. In summary, consultants have underscored the importance of placemaking. Placemaking is about our identities and values. It's about balanced growth and conservation. Placemaking is about community engagement and future decision-making. The proposed plan ignores important citizens' input, and it does not include needed amendments. Please deny the proposed plan as it is currently being presented. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Okay, board, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chair, sorry. Based on the information in the plan and from the public hearing, I move that the board deny the Centerville area plan on the grounds that it is not in keeping with public necessity, convenience, general welfare, and good zoning.
Thank you, Mr. Waters.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Lasclette. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, thank you, and thank all the citizens that are here tonight, and thank you for all the thoughtful comments. A couple of thoughts I had on this. As a concept, I think we've heard tonight that we can't reach consensus. I think we can reach consensus on a couple of things. It's better to plan than not to plan. We all have a consensus around that. If you are not evolving, you run the risk of becoming obsolete. I think we can develop a consensus around that. The change is inevitable. Now, when we launched this project to update the plan, I personally was filled with hope. And I had hope on several different fronts. One was I hoped that the project would take a reasonable amount of time and cost a reasonable amount of money. Neither one of those things seemed to happen. It took longer than we expected and cost more than we expected. I was also full of hope that with a reasonable amount of citizen input, we could develop a consensus and a way forward. That, of course, didn't happen as well. There's been really no consensus built up, and we've been overwhelmed with citizen comments. The other hopes was that we could implement all the suggestions. And when you get suggestions that say, you better do this, and others that say, you better not do this, it's hard to implement both of those. And somebody's going to say, you're not listening to us because you didn't implement what I said. Another thing that's a challenge is we've heard from 200 and some odd folks that sent in comments. That's roughly 0.1% of the county. We then are challenged with trying to figure out what the other 24,000 people are thinking. And if you know what they're thinking, let us know, because it's a challenge for us to figure that out. those are some of the hopes that I had going into this thing. Now, staff, we've heard, should be commended for their efforts, and they should be. There's a lot of long, hard hours put into this. And there's some downside to not reaching consensus. Some of the downsides without reaching consensus is we don't have an updated plan. Some of the consequences of not reaching consensus and not updating the plan is the plan that we currently have is further obsolete and further out of date. We also, we know that we expect to receive a patchwork of applications for development. And this board gives every application a light of day and proceeds through the process, whether it gets to conclusion or not. Everyone gets the light of day, so you're going to see presumably a patchwork of development. I don't think anybody wants outdated plans or patchwork development, but that's where we would be if this doesn't go forward. Now, at some point, this august body and my colleagues were elected to provide some leadership. And at some point, that leadership is going to say, when's the right time to redirect the county's time, energy, and money toward more productive endeavors? If you're spinning the wheel in the ditch and you're not making productive forward progress, at some point, is it time to redirect the efforts? And at some point, we may reach that point, but this body is charged with that leadership. Now, there's an old saying that the rigid branch is the one most easily broken. You ever try to break a willow branch? It's almost impossible. That flexibility and the ability to evolve ensures success and continued success going forward. And there was a time when everybody had a horse and only the well-to-do had cars. And now virtually everybody has a car and only the well-to-do have horses. And the people that made buggy whips, a lot of them went bankrupt because it didn't evolve into making steering wheels. You get my point with all this. It's important to have updated plans, evolve, change is coming. We just need to embrace it, not avoid it or deny it. But it's clear to me that we've not reached a consensus from all the feedback we've gotten, and county staff has been overwhelmed and isn't able to take this project forward. And so it may or may not be time for us to exercise some leadership on this. Those are my comments, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. Any other comments? I'll just, I wasn't actually going to say anything, but, you know, when I hear Mr. Peterson talk, he's inspiring. So this vote is going to have consequences. Whether it's approved or denied, there are going to be consequences. And a lot of people aren't going to like those consequences. Some will. Some will like them in the short term. They may think this is the best vote ever taken. And then when those consequences come to fruition, just remember where you were when these decisions were made. Roll call vote.
Mr. Waters?
No.
You want to vote in favor. It's a motion to deny.
Your motion.
I mean, vote however you want, but it is a motion to deny.
All right, yes.
My heart believes.
Mr. Lumpkins?
Yes.
Ms. Lascolette?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Spoonhour?
Yes. All right, we are adjourned until our November 1st regular business meeting. Thank you very much.